We are live. Hello, everyone. Fix this. Um. So, hey, hi, Aya. Thanks for joining. Love to have you here. I love to see names and peeps that keep coming back to listen to me. It's so awesome. Um. So yeah. So as we're waiting for some more people to get on here with us, we are. So if you're coming in through Facebook. Um, Make sure you give StreamYard permission so I can see your name. Um, and just wanted to, so I'll spend like a minute or so just sharing with you guys a fun weekend I had. So um, earlier, so if anyone is new here, I'll introduce myself after. Um, so earlier in the year, got connected with some amazing women in the online space, and we were formed an accountability group by our coach, and we have formed an incredible friendship. So after having to cancel two get-togethers due to C19, um, we finally were able to get together this past weekend. And so it was Friday till Sunday, and we all drove to our one friend's house. It's like a 3 hour drive for me, 3.5 hour drive for someone else, and like a 2.5 hour drive for someone else. And then the person who lives there obviously doesn't need to drive at all. So, um, had such an amazing time and a lot of laughs. Created some really fun content. It's over on TikTok. I won't be uploading it to FUD because it's a little on the I don't know. It's fun, but I don't think I don't think it's FUD material. So if you want to see the video, go find me over on TikTok. It's Colleen K Ducharme. So Colleen.K. Ducharme. That's me over on TikTok. So we had a blast. We really had a blast. So um, a lot of things happened during, and I think I talked about it a little bit on Tuesday too. So I won't go into great details, but because if you're, you guys can watch the replays and all that stuff. So, but I just wanted to chat a little bit. Oh, thanks, King Oliver. Um, I just wanted to chat a little bit, give people a little bit of time to join on that are going to join on. So I um, I had a thought that I was going to cover. Um, and ironically enough, hey Shelly, thanks for joining. Um, so when I created this live, I had labeled it, well, at least for the people that are joining me on Facebook, wrestling your thoughts into submission. And ironically, I never know what I label it. So, um, but ironically enough, I was having a conversation with my personal trainer, and I've known her for many years, and I go to her house currently. So after having a conversation with her on Monday, I had it. I had it in my head what I was going to talk about today. And what I wanted to talk about today has to do with one, the perseverance of an entrepreneur, and two, how to handle transitions and changes that come within your life. Oh, thanks so much, Ellie. Yeah, I did. I got I got sick of the dark purple. Um, the the purple that covered my blonde was purple, but the purple that reddish. But I love the idea of dark hair. I don't like how I look in dark hair. So I was really sick of the purple. I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what I want to do. So I went to, Walmart and just grabbed a color that I thought was pretty. No, I did hairdressing in high school, which was, 1,000 years ago, but um, I'm not afraid to do my own hair, cut my own hair, like whatever. So so yeah, and it's only the very crown that is colored. So like all the underneath is all still purple. So and then like my roots are like reddish, so it's like reddish, and then it fades to like a blondish, and then it goes into dark. So I have the dark undertones, and my daughter said it looks like a really pretty sunset. So I was like, that's pretty cool. I didn't, I don't ever know what it's going to come out like. But thank you. Yeah, it's fun. I like it. I had to blow it dry because it looks gross when I just let it dry itself. Um, so after having a conversation with my personal trainer on Monday, she spent years. Um, yeah, see, it looks like a sunset. The sun fading and going into darkness. I was like, oh, I couldn't have planned that better. Would have cost me $300 to have the hairdresser do this. No thanks. Um, Not when I can do it myself, and I don't really care what it looks like. So my personal trainer, I've known her for many, 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 many years, and I want to say about 7 years ago, she got the opportunity in the town where she lives to have a building constructed. And it was always her dream to have her own gym, right? She'd been a personal trainer since I think she was like 19 or whatever. And had always been her dream to have her own brick and mortar. So she finally got to the point in her career and felt confident and, income wise and all that stuff. So she worked with the landlord, had the building built. She leased it, 5-year lease, going good, building, 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 building. And then wouldn't you know it, like what happened in 2020 happened. And she had to close down, mandatory. But she, as much as that sucked and as much as that impacted her paycheck, and people were afraid to, like leave their house and all that stuff. And she had no choice but to close because it was a mandate. So rather than her putting her hands up and going, fuck it, that's all done. Oh, thanks, Taylor, and King Oliver for the fire. I appreciate it. So rather than her throwing her hands up and going, the hell with this, like it's done, and just walking away, she pivoted, right? She did what I did in my business. I would see people in my office, right? Well, because of what took place, I was able to switch to video. So hence that was my first experience working with technology, right? I had never really used technology before. So she pivots. She goes out, she gets cameras, she gets microphones, she gets lighting, she gets all this stuff, right? She could still go to her gym, right? She just couldn't let people in the building. So she set up her whole entire gym to do Zoom classes, right? She delivered. So she does spin classes too. She delivered her students who wanted to continue to do the spin class at like, I don't know, 5 a.m. or something like that. She delivered spin bikes to them, to their houses, so that they could still do spin class in the mornings, right? She went above and beyond to meet the needs of her clients because it was important to her, right? It was important to her knowing that it's important to people to maintain their health, to maintain their exercise, all that stuff. So, but sadly, as things started opening up again, um, people just weren't coming back to the gym. And she really made the hard decision to close the doors. This was last year. And take a break, lick her wounds, reconfigure her business again. So she went back to having people come to her home, and she has she set up a gym in her basement, which is how she started out. Well, she started out in her garage, but so she switched to her basement. The people that had the spin bikes got to keep the spin bikes to be able to do the spin class, and so she's been plugging along, and wasn't quite. And she started another business to supplement her income, and she's been running around like a lunatic, really. I mean, she's just amazing, right? She is just an amazing human being. Her heart is huge. She loves what she does. And so an opportunity fell in her lap not too long ago. And she now has the opportunity to open a new gym. And I believe the space is much smaller. And she's going for it. So that's what an entrepreneur does. An entrepreneur, they go for it. One opportunity stops working, they find another one. If that opportunity doesn't work out, they find another one, right? Now, she definitely went through a lot of feeling like a failure, right? Because her business that she dreamed of didn't work out. Even though she knew, obviously, none of us could have controlled what happened in 2020, 2021, right? None of us. None of us could have predicted that. We couldn't have prepared for that. Nothing, right? So, um, and she met with her attorneys, she met with the landlord, she met with the people that's going to take it over. She's getting it all drawn up, like the legalities and blah, 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 and getting all this stuff done. And here she is opening up a new brick and mortar after everything she went through, right? That's a true entrepreneur. She has all the qualities of an entrepreneur. Can't remember all of them, but she has the grit, she has the persistence, right? The two number one things in my mind. She also has a growth mindset, um, which is extremely important. So that piggybacking on, I had a request from someone who wanted me to jam on how to handle transitions. So I felt it tied in. I mean, I would have done it anyways, but I felt it actually ironically tied in really well with sharing the story of my personal trainer and how she didn't let circumstances, outside of her control, outside of her preparedness, really just keep her down. So the person who had requested, that I talk about like how to handle transitions and stuff, has gone through some personal transitions. And as I've said before, we are, oh, sorry, I have a piece, I was making applesauce and I have a piece of apple stuck to my finger, apple skin. Um, as I've said before, we are a one whole unit. So we can't authentically show up professionally and personally and be two different people, right? People try it all the time, and you authentically cannot do that. It just doesn't work. So when I think we can't, trying to figure out where I want to start. So, okay, so you have this plan for your life, right? You, but your plan changes, right? When you're 8 years old, your plan is to request Nerf guns for Christmas. And that's like the scope of your world, right? Getting that new Nerf gun. So when you turn 13, your scope of plan changes, right? So now when you're 13, you want the latest and greatest game console, right? So you can game with your friends. And, so that's all you can focus on. And then, when you're 15, 16, right? Your goals change again because now you're looking towards getting your license and driving and some sort of independence, maybe a job, right? You're not, well, some people might still be thinking about Nerf guns, right? But a Nerf gun is not your number one priority in life, right? But as a kid, we don't have the adult pressures. So we can just, if you're if you're in a healthy environment where you're allowed to, grow up, but that's besides the point. So um, you're allowed to just kind of meet your developmental milestones, right? And just shift right into the next one. And what was important to you last year might not be important to you this year. It might always remain important to you. But as you develop, your your wants, your desires, your goals, all that stuff changes, right? So I don't think there's anybody who sits on their 18th birthday and says, well, I'm legally an adult now. How can I fuck my life up? I, I, I honestly do not think there's one person who does that on their 18th birthday. And I also think it's harmful to think that you can prepare for every single possible situation that could potentially happen in your life. But what you can prepare for is how you as a whole unit, what you can do is you can prepare for how you're going to handle anything that life throws at you. And I'm sorry, guys, but it does all come down to your mindset. Yes, absolutely, King Oliver. Change is definitely hard at times. The plan is always extremely simple. Executing the plan is what is hard work, right? So you cannot possibly plan or prepare mentally, physically, environmentally for every possibility that could go good or could go bad. So going back to the request that I jam on transitions today, the best way is one, having a clear, strong sense of self, who you are, what you are, how you show up for yourself every single day. Two, preparing as much as possible for you to be independently sustaining. And what I mean by that is, in particular, to finances, right? Now, most people do not fall in this category. However, ever since I was a little kid, I remember, oh, thanks for the key, King Oliver. Ever since I was a little kid, I have always heard, make sure you have 6 months worth of bills readily available to you in the event that you can't work. Why 6 months? I have no idea. But that's what I've always heard as a recommendation. So as I think about the transitions that this person that requested I talk about transitions today, as I think about the transitions that they're going through, preparing, good sense of self, having a good financial plan. Now, I know that's extremely difficult for most people, to get 6 months worth of their bills covered up, right? It takes 3 to 6 months for the job hunt. Gotcha. Well, and also too, I'm thinking like if you're, so Jean over on FUD had put it takes 3 to 6 months for the job hunt. And I'm also thinking too, like in the event of illness, you know what I mean? Like I don't know if this is, I know there's other people, and I know, Jean, you don't even live in the United States, but which is the beautiful thing of the internet. I love that I can jam with people that live all around the world. But here in, I don't know if it's the United States or just Massachusetts or whatever, but you have FMLA, which is the Family Medical Leave Act, that you can, if you get ill or if a family member gets ill and you have to take care of them, you get a portion of your pay or something like that. I have no idea. But so sense of self, having a really strong and good financial plan. And another thing that works really well to help with transitions is having a good support system. And I know for a lot of people that's extremely difficult. One, based on family health, right? If they come from, if you come from a family that is healthy, supportive, and there for you. then great. You're going to have a great support network. If you have friends who live, fairly close to you and they can, I don't know, bring over a dinner or whatever, right? Um, so, sense of self, financial plan, a good core support network um, is honestly the best way to prepare yourself for any sort of transitions that life might throw at you. Now, I'm not quite sure if this person meant um, how to cope with how your life is going to change based on these transitions. But I figured it was really important to touch upon that. And for this is going to this is pertinent whether it's business, like I shared in the beginning, my personal trainer's journey, or if it's personal or a combination of both, right? Because the better you're able to be to have a good strong sense of self, the easier you're going to be able to manage anything that life kind of throws at you. So when I think about transitions, I think about the after effect, right? So, oh, thanks for the brain. I love it. Thanks for the fire, Maria. I appreciate that. Thanks for joining. Um, so when I think of terms of transitions, I know a little bit about what this person's going through. Um, what most people are not prepared for is that when you go through FMLA as federal, sweet, thanks, Shelley. I should know that as a social worker, right? I've helped so many people fill out forms. Um, so I am a licensed social worker. I'm a licensed therapist. I work for myself. I have my own practice, stuff like that. Been doing it for a really long time. So the aspect of coping and dealing with transitions, whether they're in business, personal life, combination of both at the same time, right? Nobody I have ever spoken to has been prepared for the great sense of grief that comes with transitions. And your transition could actually be a happy, joyous transition. You can still be grieving it though, right? Take, for instance, I'm sure most of you have heard the term like empty nester. It's like when people are parents and their kids are grown and they leave the house and then they're left with, well, what do I do now? Because they've been parenting for, 18, 19, 20, 25 years, whatever. And they don't really know what to do now that they're not parenting. Um, most people are not prepared for the grieving process that comes with coping with transitions. So, take for instance my personal trainer with her business, right? Everything, the way that it came to be, was nothing that she could have controlled. She couldn't control what happened in 2020, like nothing, right? She didn't contribute to any of the changes and she couldn't have contributed to any solution, right? She did her best. She was mourning and grieving her dream of having this beautiful gym. She got to design this gym, guys. Like, it was built for her by the landlord, built for her. She was mourning that. She was mourning the what's not going to come. And that's something, grief is something that a lot of people don't know how to bring themselves through. And again, even if it's a happy, joyous occasion, say you have a house. You grew up in this house with whoever raised you. You've lived there for 23 years, right? Thank you, Marion. I appreciate the fire. Thanks for joining too. Say you've lived in a house with whoever raised you, right? and they decide to be like, all right, you know what, like, you're ending college, we're going to be selling the house and we're going to move to a condo. Like, you are going to grieve your childhood home. You're going to. That's where, hopefully, your happy memories were, right? Whatever it was that you did as a family, whatever your family traditions were, right? It's a happy occasion because you're finishing college, you're moving out, you're starting your life, right? Your parents are, or grandparents, or whoever, aunt and uncle, like adopted parents, like whoever was responsible for raising you, are stepping into the next phase of their life. They're transitioning to what's coming next, right? But it still has that grieving. It still has that grief, right? So handling transitions in business and personal, because again, we are one person. We're not two people, three people, five people. Unless you have a personality disorder, you are one person, right? Handling transitions in life, handling transitions in business comes best when you have a solid sense of self, you have a solid financial plan, and you have a good support system. If you don't have that, does it mean you're screwed? Hell no. Doesn't mean you're screwed. Absolutely not. You can be your best support system, right? You can stand alone. Is it exhausting? Sure, it is. Um, if you have a fierce sense of survivor and fierce sense of independence, it usually comes from, it's usually coined to a trauma response. And, I won't go into that in depth. But it usually is a trauma response. It's usually from neglect, but not always, right? I mean, there are some people that come from, you know, beautifully supportive places and they're fiercely independent. They want to stand on their own 2 feet, um, because it's important and that's what was instilled in them, right? So hopefully, the person who recommended or requested that I talk about transitions, hopefully they're, either here or have are able to come back and watch the replay. And yeah, so hopefully that covered everything. And I made applesauce today, guys. It was really cool. So um, live here in Massachusetts. Winter's starting to kind of, yeah, right, Maria? Like, yum, homemade applesauce is delicious. I made two different kinds so far. I think, mm, maybe one or two more batches. I'm not really sure. I have a lot of apples left. So I made plain applesauce. I threw some chunky bits of apples in there. So it's like kind of chunky, kind of not. Um, and then this batch that I have that I just boiled, I'm letting it cool off, is I added just a little bit of allspice and some cinnamon just for some flavor. And then the next batch I make is going to be chunky applesauce. So we'll probably have applesauce, I don't know, for a long time. I gotta go out in the shed and get some mason jars. Um, but yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. Um, that was a lot, right? Thinking about, yeah, that was a lot, like thinking it in that respect, that even though what you're doing is a joyful occasion, you may feel grief, right? That's something that people just aren't prepared for, right? Um, so in some people, change doesn't bother them, right? So I'll share, I'll share a little bit about me because I've promised myself I will do that. So I grew up in an interesting situation, and um, not unique, but just interesting. And I was always packing a bag. because I never knew where I was going to be sleeping, right? I don't remember this. Somebody told me this. So, I never quite knew where I was going to be sleeping, what family member's home I would be at, right? Um, my grandmother primarily raised me, and then my godparents were second to that. And my mother was, my mother was there. Um, Not really that much, but um, so apparently my grandmother's best friend told me years and years and years ago that I used to call myself a bag lady because I was always packing a bag and I never knew where I was going to be going off to, right? So as I think about and as the years have gone on and I've worked with people, and some people can't even handle like the toilet paper going on the opposite way, and it like freaks them out, right? Like they just can't handle that insignificant change that's not going to change their life, right? But they just can't handle it. Um, Change does not bother me at all. I can pivot, I can swivel, I can go with the flow, like, and I equate that to having so many transitions and so many changes in my childhood, right? Like I just learned that nothing is permanent. Um, Things are always moving, things are always shaking. We didn't move around a lot. I grew up in the same area, but just never quite knew where I was going to be sleeping. So yeah, so just a funny little story about me. Again, I don't remember calling myself a bag lady, but um, I believe them that I did say that. So um, today's Thursday. When I was logging on, I was like, why do I only have one live scheduled? I forgot today's Thursday, and I already did Monday's live. So I will be back jamming out on Monday. We'll see kind of what comes up for the mindset piece and the online business piece, and um, what I'll jam about then. Ben, um, oh, you're welcome, Marion. I'm glad it was helpful. Um, I am so for those of you who were here on Monday, I talked about doing a high five challenge, and oh, thanks for the heart. I was gonna say Rose real quick. My eyesight's terrible. Um, so today is day 4 of the high five challenge, and I'm having so much fun doing it. So um, anybody who's interested in doing, it's not my challenge, it's a free challenge. It's um, from Mel Robbins. It's from her book The High Five Habit. And although on Monday I couldn't remember the name of the book, but it's The High Five Habit. So I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I've been posting it all on my Facebook. um, Unfortunately got a huge book backlog, but we'll get to it. Yeah, I do too. I have you can't see it, but over next to my bureau, I have a probably a 4-foot stack of books, as well as probably just as many on Audible that I want to listen to. Um, but other than like the ride back and forth to New York, I usually limit my reading or reading to learn or listening to learn to about like 45 minutes, because then I get consumption overload and it's just too much. So um yeah, so that's all I have for you guys today. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully it provoked some thinking and some aha moments, and about how to handle transitions and what to prepare for. So I will all thanks for the fire, Maria. I really appreciate that. So I will be back on Monday and jamming on whatever we jam on. And I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. I have a super busy weekend as always as a single mom. Um, but yeah, I will see you guys all then. Thank you, Shelly, for hanging out. Not sure if you're still here, if it's someone else, but um, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate it. And you just did your daughter's undecided red. I'm just seeing that. Oh, that must be beautiful. Alrighty.